Welcome to Peloton's Move for Life podcast. In this podcast, we peel back the layers of our in-class programming and we talk about the science behind fitness. In each episode, you're going to get direct takeaways from wellness experts in the health and wellness space. So why is sleep so crucial to longevity?
Yeah. Why are we talking about sleep in the same podcast as nutrition? Because both are essential for longevity. Perfect sleep temperature, the environment. I have never met a more controversial topic than what temperature should we sleep at?
Is it true that getting less than 6 hours of sleep a night takes years off your life?
It does. It does take years off your life.
Are there any foods that have anti-aging effects?
Yeah, this is a very popular topic.
We're going to learn more about living longer, healthier, and happier lives together. Hello, and welcome back to Peloton's Move for Life podcast. I'm Peloton Instructor Matt Wilpers, and I'm so excited about our conversation today. Now, in previous episodes, we've talked about the importance of longevity and how you can not only add years to your life, but life to your years. And we can't talk about all of this without talking about the importance of nutrition and sleep. Now, here to talk with us at length about this today is my good friend, health policy expert, NBC contributor, and of course, physician, Dr. Kavita Patel.
So excited to be talking about these important topics, and I know we're going to have a good time getting into it.
Well, thanks for joining us today. I'm super excited for our conversation. And let's just kick it off.
Yeah.
Talk to me about nutrition and the impact of nutrition on longevity.
Yeah, great question. We've been talking about longevity in many kind of forms over this podcast series, but today with nutrition, I think I want to drive home a couple of points, and I am going to ask you some questions about your own nutrition. I want to just say what nutrition is and what it isn't. So simply put, nutrition is fuel for your body. Yeah. It's very important to think of it in some very essential basics: carbohydrates, fats, and protein. That essentially is what we put into our body, and we need everything to have each of those forms. One sometimes is made more popular than another. And there are some people that say, well, you shouldn't eat this. Here's the truth. Your body needs carbohydrates to convert into energy for everything we do, even when we're sitting still or sleeping. We need protein to help build everything from muscles to some of our incredibly fundamental organ functions and the things we have in not just our skeleton and our core, but keeping our brain and our body just doing everything that we take for granted: breathing, walking, sleeping. And then fats. I think fats have gotten a bad rap because people think of fat as like a bad word. We actually need fats for essential brain function, for every aspect of our organ development. You can certainly over or underdo any one of these categories, but nutrition is really taking all of that into consideration and thinking about it as fuel for your body. And your body includes your brain. So what we're not going to do is get into any sort of fad or anything that goes into that rabbit hole, Matt. I'm sure you've heard about people who do one and not the other. I want people to remember that you need all three, because that's actually how your body is composed.
I feel like it's every other year or so we pick one to hate on.
We do.
And it's usually a fat or carb.
It is.
But right now, I think protein's having a heyday.
It is. Yes, we'll get into that. How much protein and I'm curious to find out kind of how you think about fueling your own body. So it'd be interesting to talk about workouts and what you have to do to kind of think about nutrition around. You do long marathons, you do everything. So I'm curious kind of how you shape nutrition in an everyday routine.
Well, I'll start by saying I'm not perfect.
Yeah, that's good. That's right. That's normal.
So I have a question for you then.
Yeah.
How does, we talk about proteins, we talk about fats, we talk about carbs. What does that look like on your plate?
Yeah.
So it's hard to contextualize it.
You're reminding me of a couple of studies that have tried to look at this, because I think when I was growing up, we had a food pyramid, and we talk about, and we learned in school that you have to have this pyramid. And if you'll remember, like at the bottom of the pyramid, which was kind of the biggest part, it was like, certain starches and carbohydrates and so on and so on. We're really trying to shift. And I think that I've heard even other kind of Peloton, like the dietitian and folks that Peloton works with, talk about a balanced plate. I think that helps to just make it easier. So again, going back to having on your plate some protein, some carbohydrates, some fat. Try to have like a quarter of a plate, if you got a round plate, quarter of your plate having some protein, We can talk about not all proteins are created equal. In fact, some of the most healthy proteins are in the purest form. So fishes that you can grill are sometimes some of the ones that are packed with the most nutrients. But don't be afraid to try other forms of meat. The more processed a protein is, generally speaking, it's less healthy. And so that's a way to think about all of your food, is that the more processed something is, so the more refined it is, or taken through steps to kind of get onto your plate.
Packaging,
right?
etc.
Packaging, or in the case of meat, sometimes the way meat can get treated and packed and cut into slices, that can sometimes be processed. But a quarter of your plate should be a protein in forms appropriate for meat eaters, vegetarians. Everybody can find a protein. And then about a quarter of your plate with some sort of fat. Sometimes that can be combined. You have a protein that has some fat. So and then about half your plate, and you just said you're not perfect. I'm not either. Half of your plate should have some of these, I would call them kind of whole carbohydrates. People often put fruits and vegetables in the same category. Not all fruits and vegetables are created equal either, but getting all of that on your plate can be difficult, but should be kind of a goal. But nobody talks about a plate with just one thing on it, so it's balanced. And to drive this point home, in the United Kingdom, they looked at over 450,000 adults over several decades. They looked at their eating habits. They looked at all sorts of blood, physical exams. They found that those who shifted to that more balanced plate, kind of all these varieties of different types of food that are less processed, could add as much as 10 years to their life. So we talk about longevity. That's true proof that you can do it.
Carbs as an athlete, something I kind of scale up and scale back depending on how much activity I'm doing.
How so? What do you do?
So it's like if I'm training for a marathon and burning through a lot of fuel,
right?
Often carbohydrates, fat.
That's your first access point for fuel.
I need to make sure my glycogen reserves are topped up.
Right.
But on the side of that, vegetables, I guess, what would you say the ratio between vegetables and carbs would be on that plate?
In terms of the plate and how much to put on it? So it depends on the vegetable. Okay. So we love to think of, again, not all fruits, not all vegetables are created equal. In fact, there's, we'll link to it in the show notes, but I'm going to link to a chart that kind of shows different fruits and vegetables. But let's talk about vegetables for a second. There are different forms of vegetables, broccoli, leafy greens, that tend to provide kind of a higher ability to convert into what you care about, which is ATP, which is energy, which is our body's form of energy, better than other vegetables. Okay. It doesn't mean there's quote unquote bad vegetables, but some are just more efficient. Tends to be your cruciferous vegetables or your leafy greens, your spinach, your kale, your broccolis. But I tell people, any vegetable you can get access to that you like is probably a good one. So in terms of a ratio, some of them are better at converting into that kind of storage form of glycogen. And I'll just say, for people who don't know what glycogen is, it's basically how our body packages glucose, which is essentially sugar, for a better way to put it. And we need that for fuel, to your point. How soon or after, what do you believe in terms of timing for fueling your body before a workout?
If it's a HIIT ride, we're going on the lighter side. Right. Because anything in your stomach can sometimes come up if you're going super intense.
So not.
But if you're going longer, which often means lower intensity, you can pack on more calories.
And can you do it close to the workout, or do you
Typically,
like to space
it's at least an hour outside of the workout. Hour and a half. Some people are, can be closer, further away.
Yeah.
Cycling, you can get away with more. Running, when you're jostling around a lot, then you have to push it out further. 2 hours is usually where I have high carb breakfast before.
And then what about after? So after one of your classes?
That 30-minute window, you want to get proteins, carbs, electrolytes ASAP.
So I actually tried to find, and there is science behind this. It's not just Matt telling me these things.
It's not Matt science?
No, it is Matt science. We are going to coin it as Matt science, but you talk about it in classes. And I was curious, and there have been studies that have been done in both animals, including humans, to look at timing of protein, carbohydrate, and hydration after a workout. the most benefit comes, they really actually looked even hours into it, 6 hours after a workout.
Okay.
The most benefit came from that first 90 minutes and even more in that first 30 minutes if possible.
Oh, so even more in the first.
So they show this, it's almost linear, Matt. So it's interesting. It's made me change. I would kind of think like I'm going to work out, I'm going to shower, and then I'm going to do my protein, carb, hydration. I now have shifted a little bit because of that study to think about doing it not immediately, but trying to time it so that it's closer. And can you tell me why you like to do that?
Well, in my head, it's just like the way I'm thinking about my body from a very unscientific perspective.
No,
I've just totally depleted my body of all these things and broken down my muscles. And I'm like, okay, my body's saying, hey, we're recovering.
Right.
We're fixing things. Where are we going to pull it from?
Yeah.
And so if I'm not putting anything in, it's pulling from existing resources.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's not actually what I don't want to break down muscle. I don't want to.
Right.
I want to give it something because I want to build back up without having to pull from something already in my body.
And it's incredibly efficient to do that with protein. And so most people think about protein, but you really do need the carbohydrates. I think of it as like a vehicle. Like think about a car with like all the parts in the engine. Core of an engine can be like that motor, which can be the protein, which is very helpful for like uptake, which studies have shown like in that kind of 30 to 90 minute time frame, you'll see an uptake physically kind of protein and the carbohydrates. But you need the carbohydrates to go along for the ride. And then hydration is critical. And some people, I looked into the science of this for this podcast. I had been someone who had poo-pooed kind of having drinks, like water with maybe some carbohydrates added to it. I always thought that was unnecessary.
Oh.
It's one of the areas, which I think you've shown me, that is helpful to have. You can overdo it.
Oh, yeah.
So you shouldn't add more to the carbohydrates if your drink already has them. But it taught me something that I hadn't really understood the science of. And I think you've talked about that after a workout.
Folks at home, there is nutrition as we talk about in respect to longevity. And then there's nutrition as we talk about in respect to performance.
Yeah.
And I could go down a serious rabbit hole on performance, but I will save y'all.
We'll save
I'll save your ears for another conversation.
But it is important for longevity because we are talking about all of this together, including we talked about exercise, nutrition, fuel for your body, sleep, fueling your body for anything you're doing. Even a stressful like work day is an incredible reason to think about fuel every single day. And I can't stress that enough.
And I think one of the important things to take home is the key word that Dr. Patel is saying is fuel. And I think oftentimes we just need to change our relationship with food to think about it as fuel versus a reward.
Yeah, that's a great point. To not think about I too kind of have also had like emotional responses to food. Totally natural, totally normal.
Oh, yeah.
But when you do think about, which is why I do find it fascinating to think about how to fuel your body around any event where you know you're going to need extra energy, and a workout is a good example. But I've had stressful days with like a packed day of patients where I would sometimes forget to eat because I'm just so busy. And then you realize you're not actually like making the best decisions. It's because I don't have the fuel on board. So again, protein, carbohydrates, fats. Keep it simple, but think about all of those together.
All right. Now, my birthday's coming up.
Yes.
Big 4-2.
Yes.
Oh, geez.
So
my next question is kind of selfish. Are there any foods that have anti-aging effects?
Yeah, this is a very popular topic and something that
I'm going to be taking notes here.
It fits into our carbohydrates, fats, protein conversation, and also what I'll call micronutrients. Micronutrients are essential vitamins. The word micro being we don't need overwhelming amounts of them. Carbohydrates, fats, proteins, and kind of the foods we've been talking about are macronutrients. We need large amounts of them. So let's talk about both macro foods and nutrients that can actually have been shown in studies to do things like lower your risk for dementia, which is important in longevity, having a healthy life, any decade of your life, and then also to actually increase your life expectancy, which is related to longevity. The longer you live, if you're living healthy, can be kind of the road to longevity. All right, so we're going to do our top 10.
Get your notepads out.
Get your notepads out, yes. So berries, Again,
all right.
not all fruits are created equal, but berries kind of tend to reign supreme. Blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, those can be your brain boosters. They can have some of those essential micronutrients and vitamins and antioxidants.
Perfect.
Okay, then we're going to get into nuts. Walnuts being one of the key, like they've in studies time after time have been helpful for shifting you into that longevity, kind of helping you live healthier and longer, are people that have incorporated nuts, including walnuts, into their diet.
See, they look like a brain.
They do look like a brain. That's why I actually like them. And again, have key protein, fat, carbohydrate. Fish, so especially some of the fatty fishes can actually have, again, people think fat is not good. Fat in its natural forms and in kind of, like amounts that are appropriate can be incredible for inflammation fighting.
Absolutely.
We now are understanding a lot more than we ever have about the role of inflammation in longevity and kind of anti-inflammatory effects of everything from even your mood. We're going to talk about, and hopefully one of our podcasts soon, about connections and loneliness. That helps in creating inflammatory states. Fish can help to fight that along with some of these other power foods we're going to talk about.
That's great.
And then leafy greens. I like to think of them as the cellular protectors, cruciferous vegetables, but leafy greens, spinach, kale, radishes, anything with like the greens on top, don't sacrifice them. Yeah. And I love having some of our friendly like nutrition dietitian tips on how we can do something with every part of a vegetable, including some of those leaves that sometimes we'd cut off and cast away. All of those can be incredibly anti-aging and positive for your overall health. That's All right, awesome. Then oil, especially EVOO, extra virgin olive oil. You might see that EVOO.
Oh, yeah, you'll probably see that. I'm going to remember that one.
EVOO, extra virgin olive oil. Why in that particular kind of oil? It has to do with kind of the way the oil is processed or not in this case. So extra virgin olive oil tends to be some of the most pure form of that fat, in this case, olive oil. Okay. You can use things like avocado oil, but extra virgin olive oil can be one of like the essentials for fat for preparing foods, and also sometimes for drizzling on other food as well. You can have that on top of meals. Green tea. This is often talked about. You'll see green tea in kind of every, I think, Peloton HQ, you've got green tea packets around. Oh, yeah. 1 cup of green tea, which also has caffeine, by the way, but 1 cup of green tea can actually be beneficial in longevity. So people who have drank traditionally 1 cup of green tea each every day have actually been shown to have longer life expectancy, live longer, and can be helpful for reducing risk of dementia. I caveat some of this because these are not studies that were kind of what I would call high rigor studies. They were association studies to look at patterns in people who are really healthy. And so if you're not a green tea person, it doesn't mean you're leaving something out. It's just, it can help if it's one of the things that you enjoy each day.
Would it be beneficial if instead of having 2 cups of coffee, I had 1 cup of coffee, 1 cup of green tea?
You could do that, yes. And then just my caveat is everything we're going to talk about today, I put a star to say, talk about it with a nutritionist, a dietitian, a health professional, because each person is different. And for me, 2 cups might be a little too much. And for you, it might be very normal for your body to have 2 cups of caffeine.
Before I get on stage, energy's got to come from somewhere.
Yes, you've got to have. We're going to round out with some of my favorites to pack together, pomegranates. Oh, and that's, awesome. I mean, we talked about some other fruits, the berries, but pomegranates can be like these little red packs of power for, again, antioxidants and essential micronutrients. And then one of my favorites to talk about is chocolate, especially dark chocolate. So more pure. I think another key is getting some of these products in some of its purest form. If you actually taste some of the most pure cacao, large proportion of it, which is not processed or added a ton of sugar to, it can almost be bitter if you've ever had it. So I would recommend that people can be confused about not all chocolate's created equal. If it's super processed and you're reading the ingredients and it's got more other things and sugar than it does cacao or kind of the natural part of chocolate, probably not as healthy of a choice. Gotcha. So go more pure, but know that it may not be as sweet. But I would just say that even for my kids, I've tried to just work with those percentages where it's more and more cacao. And getting used to that because it can be an important inflammation fighter and antioxidant. Those are your super anti-aging foods. But listen, we said we're not perfect. So anything you can get on your plate that helps you get those, 3 magic carbs, fats, proteins is a good day.
Okay. Well, dark chocolate always feels like a negotiation for me.
It does. Yeah. Yeah.
There's the milk chocolate, which is what I want, but instead of having to kick chocolate completely off my
you can get the dark chocolate.
My nutrition routine. I can get the dark chocolate. It's like, okay, happy medium.
That's right. And you'll find over time your taste actually adjusts to it.
Yes.
So we have so many taste buds in our mouth, and we have so much like our brain is our best organ, and so much is going on to give it feedback. So you'll find that over time, I meet people all the time that are like, well, I just don't like X, Y, or Z. That's fine, but try phasing it in a little bit and you'll be surprised. The key with longevity is to understand what's right to fuel your body, and it can be different.
Well, speaking of fueling your body, talked a lot about science, and we get a lot of information. What are some creative ways we can think about fueling our body?
Part of the challenge is, how do you fuel your body when time is really essential? I have to travel a lot. I work hard. I stay up late, and I'm doing probably the things that we talk about. I should relax and sleep a little more. So I try to also make sure that I'm not giving myself fuel when I'm trying to get to sleep. We're going to talk about sleep behaviors. And then I think other forms of foods, we talked about like anti-aging foods, but I always want to make sure hydration becomes like a key part of this. So hydration kind of gets skipped over. Make sure you're hydrating as much as you are thinking about what solid foods you're putting into your body. And so those are just any tips that you have, because you're also on the go, and you have to get the right amount of fuel, the right time, but you don't have the luxury of having that much time. How do you think about convenient ways to get it?
Week to week really makes a difference for my wife and I is prepping the food.
That's a great point.
We have to prep the food.
One day a week.
Over the weekend, going grocery shopping, prepping food for the week. I always have fresh berries.
Yeah.
So I get organic everything.
Yeah.
I think there's a huge difference in the taste of your fruits and vegetables from organic to non-organic.
It goes back to the processing.
That's just me. But I think there's a huge difference.
Yeah.
And I want to, if I'm going to splurge on something, I'm not going to splurge on a cheesecake. I'm going to splurge on high quality fruits and vegetables. Yeah. So I always have those easy to grab. So when I'm on the go and I need something quick, it's like I'm going to grab something healthy.
That's a great piece. Like it's already packaged for you, so to speak. So then you can put that in your backpack.
And then my wife, we make a lot of different soups and stews. And it's something that you can make bulk of and keep it in the refrigerator. And whenever you're on a rush, warm some up, and you got your protein, you got your electrolytes, you got some carbs in there. And then, you can grab some berries as your dessert or whatever, and you're out the door.
Soups are a great way to get it's a soup, stews, like sometimes even a casserole. If you're pre-baking something, you can get all those ingredients in. To go back to our longevity theme, just talking about that shift you just described, prepping your meals, and actually having like kind of a plan for those days when I describe I didn't eat and I realized, wait a minute, I'm just not fueling myself the way I should, or I feel off kind of mentally from what I should be. That has all been consistent with studies that show that helps with lifespan and health span. We've talked about what lifespan and health span are. Lifespan, kind of how long you'll just live biologically, but health span is how long you live healthy, which is what we all want. Everything that you just described is a behavior and habit that kind of adds to your healthy, longer life. And that's, I think, critical.
Yeah, and it's a good point. And one shift that I had to make personally, and I don't know who can relate to this, maybe not, maybe so, but there was a long point in my life where it's like, well, I'm too busy to eat.
Yes.
So I'm just not going to eat.
That's what
And I later found out as I got older that I was damaging my body by doing that.
Right.
Damaging my performance because I wasn't thinking as good, feeling as good, but also damaging my body. And so that was something for me that instead of eating something bad, I wasn't eating anything at all.
Yeah.
I've had to meal prep to make sure I'm eating something.
Yeah.
And it's made a good impact on my health.
That's another myth that I think people, that you can, one meal a day, or again, this is not about trying to give anyone you must do ... This is much more about giving people, I think, the freedom that great nutrition, fuel for your body, for longevity, you need to actually think about it. Could you imagine depriving your car of gasoline?
I'll never forget, was it freshman year of college cross country and track? I came in eating frozen pizzas. It's like, I didn't know how to cook from it. I didn't have a grocery
I think we've
shop,
all been there.
cook,
Yes.
whatever. And then the seniors took us out to the local market.
Yeah.
Farmers market in Georgia.
Yeah.
I think it's called the Decatur's Farmers Market.
Mm-hmm.
Taught us how to cook. And my performance completely changed, and how I felt at practice completely changed, simply because changing my nutrition. I don't want to harp on it forever, but it made a big deal, big difference.
No, I want it, but you know what you're reminding me? I want to make sure anybody watching or listening. So frozen vegetables sometimes get a bad rap, but the process of freezing vegetables keeps most of their nutrients. The frozen vegetables can still be an incredibly valuable source of nutrition. And for many of us, the easiest way to grab something sometimes out of a freezer and then put it on the dinner plate quickly, to your point. So you're reminding me that I think I even kind of thought, before I took more nutrition classes, really thought frozen is not good. What you're describing are kind of more processed frozen foods that are packaged. And that does not give you as much nutrition as you found yourself.
Now, my favorite thing from a vegetable standpoint, similar to the berries, is I steam a little bit of broccoli, put a little salt on it, keep it in the refrigerator, grab that and go. Fantastic.
It's
so fantastic.
And it holds for several days.
It does.
You can actually, as you said, prep it. And I use that with my kids. Anything you can do quickly so that you can get something on a plate that shows that balanced plate we just talked about. That's important.
Okay, let's talk about something that I'm struggling with
right
as
now,
a new dad.
I can guess. Is it sleep?
Oh, yeah. How the bags doing on the end?
I think they're going to edit those out. No.
So why is sleep so crucial to longevity?
Yeah. So sleep, why are we talking about sleep in the same podcast as nutrition? Because both are essential for longevity.
Okay.
And we'll go through, let me just give some basic scientific pearls around what we do know about sleep. So we know that when people actually have less sleep, less than 6 hours usually, that we actually can see a higher relative risk for things like dementia. So our brains just do not like it when we do not get enough sleep.
I think we feel that in the morning.
We do feel that in the morning, and we definitely feel that when you're a new parent. So I can completely understand what you're going through and relate to it. But you just touched on something about training. Sleep is a way of training and allowing your body to kind of absorb all that goodness that you took in and kind of take in all the important processes of reconstructing muscle and actually adding to your cellular layers and actually taking away toxins, your liver, which is kind of the clearinghouse for some of your toxins. It's doing its best to work when you're sleeping so that it can actually clean out and kind of help you kind of reset for a new day. That's also when we know that our brain is releasing important growth hormones like cortisol, which is essential. So in fact, you will hear and with your child that you need to get a certain amount of sleep. And we usually say that children, infants, growing like young adults need, anywhere from 8 to 10 to 12 hours of sleep, depending on your age. That's exactly because that's an incredibly important time for those key growth hormones and for key hormones in your body to be released. That continues as you're an adult. It doesn't stop when you're an adult. It's just that it changes. Our purpose for what we do during sleep changes.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of housekeeping is going on.
It is. It's essential housekeeping. You have to think about.
It's cellular housekeeping.
It's cellular housekeeping, and it's also just processing all the things we talked about for fueling your body during that day. You want your body to have the chance to actually do all of that uptake and absorption and kind of resetting of cellular kind of levels. And so I also use sleep as a way to really understand how healthy is the rest of their life.
Yeah. Because
if you're not getting a lot of sleep, it's usually because you're dealing with a baby in the household, a stressful work or home situation. It's often a little bit of a door into someone's life.
From a coaching perspective, sleep is where absorption happens. And we talked about absorption.
Yeah.
And in terms of, you do a workout and then do you absorb the benefits of the workout? And absorption is fancy word for saying adapting to the training stress.
Yeah, that's a good way. Yeah.
And as a coach, we all know that you can have whatever compression things you want on. You can take whatever foam rolling, ice bath, whatever you want, but nothing is as good as sleep.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I'll have an athlete come to me and be like, I'm just not getting faster. I'm doing all these things, but I'm not getting faster. And then I'm like, well, how much are we sleeping?
Mm-hmm.
It's like 5 hours, 4 hours.
Not enough.
You're going to be in a perpetual state of being broken down.
What do you tell that athlete? What are some things that have worked for you, even when you're trying to think about getting better sleep?
Typically, it's a matter of prioritization.
Yeah.
Are we prioritizing sleep? And that's usually where we're falling off.
Yeah.
It's usually, well, I'm putting everyone else in my life first and not getting enough sleep for me. And it always comes back to, well, if you can't take care of yourself, are you going to be able to take care of the people in your life? That's part one. But part two is part of training for an event or whatever is going to be able to get adequate rest to train for it. So we can't just say, do I have time to get workouts in? It's also, do I have time to do the proper recovery so that I'm going to get to the end point the way I want to be?
It does seem like our society has somehow, there was a point, I feel it personally, when we would talk about it heroically, like, I only need 3 hours of sleep, Matt. I'm very, very smart. I can do this. And I think we're shattering those myths and breaking through that glass right now. The hardest part is, I think what you just said, is prioritizing it.
Yeah, we have to prioritize it.
Too many new parents. I know too many working parents who they just don't know where to find the hours. They don't. I frankly fall into that category many times, but I've actually done what you've recommended. I've said, I need to get sleep. I need to figure out, and I'll work with a professional. There, I think, is nothing wrong with saying, like, I am not sure how to get sleep. We'll talk about some kind of tips to doing this, but for longevity, think about it like you wouldn't, if you were a diabetic and you needed insulin, you wouldn't avoid kind of getting help or treatment for that. If you're not able to sleep and you know that this is a problem, seek help. Try to ask for that help, because I think for too much in our society, we've somehow put it like a badge of honor. Like, I don't need to sleep and I can still do everything. And the body does not work that way.
Yeah, I constantly think that maybe I'm losing track or I forget about a bad night's sleep, but your body doesn't.
No.
And speaking of that, is it true that getting less than 6 hours of sleep a night takes years off your life?
It does. It does take years off your life. So we have about a 25-year study that was done, about 8,000 participants. Again, we benefit from these studies of looking at over time because we can look at patterns of association, and that's exactly what we're trying to see. We found that in people who did have less than 6 hours of sleep, that they actually had lower life expectancy. And I talked earlier about dementia. So we know that there's a relationship there, obviously. Like, if your brain is not getting the recovery or fighting the inflammation in your body and having that time, that results in shorter lifespan and can also result in just a less healthy brain. So it's all the things that we've been talking about. But the hardest part is, I think you identified the hardest part is prioritizing it and then also being able to find a way to do something about it.
I like definitive moments. I'm a former CPA, so I'm like,
that's right.
I want black or white. And so it's like 6 hours. That's the time.
That's the time.
You need 6 hours.
The magic number.
At least that's the magic number.
Right.
Speaking of that, and going back to Power Zen training, is there like a sweet spot where it's like, that's optimal sleep for brain health?
7 to 8 hours is generally like considered the optimal. Again, there are different stages of people's lives, and depending on what age you are, and obviously this applies more to adults, not to children. So, but 7 to 8 hours is kind of a nice goal to shoot for. And we've spoken when we talked about exercise about all the different like kind of wearables, a heart rate monitor that Peloton has, like all the kind of fitness wearables. These are now really, including your phone, these are now great ways to actually find out how you slept. I think some people are shocked because you can find out overnight on usually your phone, wow, it looked like I actually had interrupted sleep or movement or a heart rate change during sleep. That can be an indicator that while you may have gotten 7 to 8 hours, it may not have been as restful as your body needed. So I think it's really important to say not just the number of hours, but the quality of that sleep.
I love this. And I think back to training as an athlete when I was in college. And what I would have done as my coach is I would have put some of these trackable, these wearables on my athletes and say, okay, how are you doing outside of practices? Are you actually, like, we're quantifying recovery now.
Right.
How are you sleeping? And looking at that information, because if you're not absorbing, you're not going to come back rebuilt from what we've already done. You're not going to be ready.
And that's the kind of tying that into longevity. we've said it's never too late. So,
Yeah.
never too late to kind of think about movement, exercise, nutrition. I've already given you the statistics that even at a later age, you can see like the benefits of shifting your diet or shifting kind of how you put food into your body. But then that also counts with sleep. I think people who have had decades of trouble sleeping feel like they're a lost cause, feel like there's no way that they could ever kind of figure out how to help their body get quality sleep. That's simply not true. I think it's critical to kind of air this, prioritize it like anything else that would add to your health span.
The top 5. This is our section called the top 5. Where we're talking about the top 5 tips or tricks. And we're talking specifically about sleep strategies today. So I'm excited for this. Let's hear it.
All right. Consistent sleep schedule.
Oh, yeah.
This is not going to make me popular. As someone who used to be why don't I just have 5 hours of sleep on the weekdays and then hibernate on the weekends and make up all my hours? That's not a thing. You just said it. The body actually knows when you're not getting sleep.
It's keeping track.
You cannot catch up on your sleep no matter what people tell you. So consistent sleep schedule. Yeah. That means that even if I don't need to get to work tomorrow, I don't have kids to deal with, I don't have to go to, school, you still should probably aim to go to bed at the same time and get up at the same time, because your body's working and it works on a timer, and it works on a timer that doesn't know that it's Monday to Sunday. It just adjusts and does its thing. So consistent sleep schedule is number 1.
That's tough for me. Real quick, now you can keep going. It's like, for all my Peloton instructors out there, it's like some days we have classes at 6 a.m.
Yes.
And then some days we have classes at 3, 5, 7:30 p.m.
Yep.
And what I've had to do for myself is like, okay, if you're going to have 6 a.m. classes, you got to pick a time where you're going to wake up. Well, 5 or 4:30 a.m. is now my consistent time that I wake up throughout the entire week.
Right.
And I found I feel way better doing that.
Right.
Than saying, okay, 5 a.m. one day, 8 a.m. the next day.
Right.
It makes me feel wrecked.
Consistency is key. Do not feel defeated if you travel. Yeah. I know you travel. So if you're changing time zones, there are now apps you can kind of figure out online how to kind of shift your sleep to get that consistency. So it is possible. I personally have to travel kind of across coasts for different parts of work. I end up trying to adjust to get consistency, but I need help. Sometimes I'm not sure. And generally speaking, if you're changing time zones, one of the pieces of advice is to stick to your original time zone that you were coming from. Even if that means you're sleeping at what might feel like 7 p.m. in your new time zone. So consistency is key there.
Okay. What's number 2?
All right. Perfect sleep temperature, the environment. I have never met a more controversial topic than what temperature should we sleep at. The optimal kind of temperature, external temperature for sleep is around 65 to 68 degrees. So it's a bit cooler than I would have thought. And that's been shown in literature.
Y'all might need to text that to your partner.
That's right. 65 to 68 degrees. Don't send me hate mail if you like it warm. Like, I'm a Texan. I like keeping everything warm. I definitely, so I looked through the literature. This was like the consistent kind of temperature range where people felt, and it was proven, again, most optimal way to get quality sleep, and also kind of what the body needs to basically, think of it as kind of shutting down and like going into a mode where it's not having to fight to create a cooler environment. When we're slightly overheated, because it's 75 degrees, like I like to keep the thermostat, our body actually has to do a little more work to kind of conserve energy. It sounds counterintuitive, but that's why keeping your external temperature at 65 to 68 degrees actually creates an environment where your body doesn't need to fight the temperature in any way and can just do its thing. So There you go. I know.
It reminds me of computer servers.
Yes.
I don't know why.
That's right.
But so you ever go to a server room, it's freezing.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Okay. What's number 3 then?
The third is having some sort of ritual every night.
Oh, yeah.
This, I think, is actually where...
This is so tough.
It's really tough, but I have to be honest, Peloton saved my life with this, with meditation. When meditation first started, I could not understand how to meditate. I always thought it was like, I have to just sit there and be still and not do anything and not talk and not say anything. And then it was through Peloton where I learned, like, you can meditate when you're standing. You can meditate and but it was really more creating a ritual for me that I could do before I slept. And it doesn't have to be meditation, but it's an incredible, back to your consistency, some sort of ritual before you sleep. For some people, it's journaling. For others, it's reading a book. It's just something we'll talk about screens, but it's generally not like being on your phone and doing email, but a ritual that kind of helps signal to your entire body, especially your brain, I'm probably going to be going to sleep soon. So doing something.
It's funny you say that because we have a ritual for our baby.
Uh-huh.
And as I'm going through the ritual for the baby, I'm getting tired.
You need it.
I'm just like,
you're
okay, I'm
because
ready
every
to go.
night you're like, read, swaddle, and then you're like, why am I sleeping?
Yeah, I'm sleeping already.
It's a good, but it's a great way to help. Again, along with seeking professional help if you need it.
Okay, what's number 4 then?
All right, blue light exposure. So, what is a blue light? Blue light is generally emitted from, it's not sunlight, basically.
Okay.
It's emitted from screens. So the most common forms of blue light, because of the form of those lights that we actually have to keep like a backlight to an iPad or in a computer or any phone, creates actually, it literally, the rods and cones in your eyes, which are part of your brain, actually process it differently. And it ends up sending a signal to your brain that keeps the brain more awake and sends kind of chemicals in your brain that actually keep you awake longer. So you've seen probably people talk about blue light glasses or things that they can do to try to stop that blue light from providing that constant feedback. But trying to avoid it would be the best thing possible. This is where I'm horrible and guilty. A little hack I try to do is I try to put my phone in like my closet, or I'm never going to forget where my phone is because it's like part of my body. But if you put it in another room, then you don't have the blue light. And then here's another tip. Try potentially to explore not having like a screen in your bedroom, because that makes you more tempted to kind of turn it on. Yeah. And that blue light is literally like a slam to your brain to say, keep awake.
I can literally feel it.
The screen.
The screen. I can feel it like waking me up and like giving me energy of some sort to stay awake. And
That's exactly the rods and it's your brain.
That's crazy.
Literally taking that feedback. So the brain is very smart.
And this last one.
All right.
This last one is
not what you would expect.
I was not expecting.
No,
this.
Morning light exposure.
Okay,
so
talk to me about
in several studies, we have seen that in sunlight exposure within 30 minutes of waking up, it doesn't even have to be prolonged periods of exposure, but if you can actually have like some sunlight exposure in the first 30 minutes, that you can actually improve your sleep and improve your health span or your longevity overall. It's kind of shocking because you may think I'm up, I'm doing my thing, I'm inside, but I'm up. Exposure to sunlight, even briefly, can have an incredible amount on your body, because that reaction you told me about with the screens, that same reaction happens when you're getting the most natural form of light in the form of UV sunlight. So even on a cloudy day, like what it probably is like outside right now, you can actually get that same UV light exposure. So for some of us, it's getting out the door within 30 minutes of waking up to go wherever we're going for our day. For others, it might be purposely doing what we've talked about, getting out for even 1 minute around the block, 5 minutes around the block, 5 minutes outside. It's an incredibly powerful way, ironically, to help you sleep better.
And I love that you said that, because as soon as we talked about this.
Yes.
I go out for morning walks with my dog.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is perfect.
Yes,
this is perfect. I'm
it's like, and now you've taken all that goodness of, do it with sunscreen, as you talked about before. Yes. But yes, it's, so those are the 5, and some of them might surprise people. So hopefully they'll be able to adjust what they're doing and maybe get a little bit of benefit out of it. Yeah.
I love that. Well, make sure y'all check out Peloton for your sleep routines, your wind down routines, for your meditations and stretches. Those are super helpful,
they
right?
Are. Yes. Oh, I've actually prescribed it for people with insomnia. I've said, if you've tried meditation, there's lots of apps. I said, do you happen to have a Peloton app? And if you're not, try it. And there have been, I'd be curious, but I bet the science is accumulating that can be an incredibly effective way to help when you have trouble sleeping. And then when I have trouble sleeping, I will just put on back like a meditation app. I often used to be tempted to go find my phone in the closet and kind of stay awake to try to work. The best thing is to kind of reset your body. So That's great resources in the Peloton community.
Well, thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge with us.
You too.
As always, I really appreciate it.
I love it. I'm going to fuel my body in a better way now. So I'm very excited about it.
Now, next episode, we're going to talk about a sneaky underlying factor that can negatively impact your longevity: loneliness. But we're going to be talking about specific ways you can continue to stay connected and add years to your life. And remember, you're not just training to move for today, you're training to move for life. I'll see you next time.